think the issue is that this is a dark background. And the camera's trying to compensate for,
Phones on silent?
it's really boosting the brightness, the bright light about this background.
I got you.
And then that still continues to wash out your face.
Yeah.
So you need a little diffuser
Okay.
here,
so
but it
that-
doesn't seem. I'm still messing with
I
it.
got you in right, Jim.
Is there a need to maybe lighten up?
We have a team of people calling middle-level builders, not through the big shot guys. But anyways,
Yeah.
they had a training call with them about
Ultimate light.
cues and questions. And at the end of the cue, here's a question I asked them. Did I do skip planning? So it went on about 45 minutes. It was good, because they're calling hundreds of people a week,
Nice.
and you never know when that could lead to something.
Of course, yeah.
So,
Oh, seems like it tends to lead.
sometimes it does, sometimes, I'm not sure, Michael, should I, no, that's a perfect call.
Sue, I don't know why.
Yeah, good
This
catch,
is what-
Cassandra. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm getting,
Well, I don't have the embed
So-
codes. Oh, wait, so let's,
no, we're talking
Let's have a
about
lunch
your
with
hangout
A
section.
breakfast with a fella that was in,
So if you look at your hangout, can we go to your hangout section?
have you chatted with Alan Potter?
thing.
I saw him at Issachar. Yeah, we chatted briefly.
Yeah, I was gonna,
my internet.
they asked me to go to that one in Denver, but we have someone handle it. It sounds like he's back at Kindred Church, maybe.
Oh, is that right?
That's what I gotta, because Alan and I went through leadership and did discipleship together at Compass, the Partners Program.
Yeah.
I took him through that.
Mhm.
And that was kind of news to me. So I need to give Alan a call.
I have no idea. I don't, we don't,
So if
we're not buddy-buddy.
I thought you were.
Really? I mean, we have.
Well, there was that incident. No.
We have spent some time with that. How many people can you hang on to,
No, I believe me. When Chris's car just gets smaller and smaller every year, it's embarrassing. Like, I don't have time to maintain all this.
Let's do a refresh.
Okay, I got buzzed by Mr. Jameson here. Join the hangout.
Yeah, but which one?
Oh.
Hello.
If I'm just going blind. Is that the right one? Good. I think I'm cheating, but I'm gonna go get one of my blue blazer for Ford, you know?
Dress rehearsal.
Technically,
I'm
dress
gonna be
rehearsal, but
wearing,
I'll go get it.
blue shirt.
only if, I mean, you know,
I could provide.
I'll go
some
get it.
contrast.
I'll get it.
Like to see you look like. Did you get a?
Okay.
I
did, and there's a couple. And then this one should be just the grammar. Don't my CPA and my attorney, it should be full on that test. Okay. But that's not your fault. That was, that's how it is. Nice change. All right. Oh.
Muted. Did that go through? Okay, that light is just real, but I know we have to do it. I'm gonna wear a visor.
Jim, I got the test that Michael sent me, so it's
I don't want to
working.
scare you, Sue.
Thank
I'm
you.
changing my shirt.
Was that the theme of 2001: A Space Odyssey? Dun, 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 dun. Or is it Rocky, Eye of the Tiger?
Yo.
Am I good, Tori, to go here? I probably should plug into the. I should probably plug into the Ethernet here. That would help. Shut off.
That's what we'll find out during the dress rehearsal.
Yeah, really. You know, my wife. When my wife and I got married almost 10 years ago now at St. Andrew's Church, starts saying she's walking has this veil. What catches on a candle now that the veil is starting a little flame and rips it off. And it was like, oh my gosh.
Where did that happen? Outside at the altar?
Yeah, near the altar. John Huffman married us. Great voice.
You also trained at first aid or anything?
Oh, she was able to get it out in time.
Did it get caught on video?
It did. Yes, it did. Well, not that, but we had put the subliminal message in here, Sue. Give.
Hey, here we go.
Give. That's a bit too biggish. So we took Jay to the iconic In-N-Out Burgers yesterday.
Yeah.
For taste the.
What did Jay think of that?
I like
He was ecstatic.
Yeah, that was just awful.
So what are the magic ingredients? I tried once when I moved here and it didn't do anything for me. But then
My son works there.
The ingredients.
Put a lot of MSG in the burger. My son said.
That's
Other
ridiculous.
than that, it's just fine.
My heart's fine. My car arteries is like.
That's actually what produces that flavor.
I mean, I'm not like, oh, I gotta have one. I just it was something fun and Jay and everything. At least I'm not quite as blind.
Yeah, helps you anyway.
Yeah.
It still looks about the same on camera to me, but that's fine.
How hot are those bulbs?
We'll find out.
You're a professional, so I shouldn't question it.
I've never used one before, so.
And then attacked. Oh my God, a fire! So I mean,
Either you smell smoke or see plastic dripping, just reach for it.
as it
Without burning your
yeah, as it
too much.
burns me down to my scars me to my bones. This is great because all I had for food today was a bagel.
Okay, so we need to do sound checks now.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't get to see what you look like on camera. With your blue shirt. Did you see what you look like on camera with your blue shirt?
Let us know when you're ready.
I looked in here. You said I was fine.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, you were wearing a blue shirt at that time?
Yeah.
Well, where's your blazer?
It's
Not you.
This is supposed to be a dress rehearsal, not a dress down rehearsal.
I don't wear a blazer.
I don't usually either. I'm usually in a plaid shirt or.
We got middle of the country.
I sure wear my cowboy hat. I have my black cowboy hat.
I've never worn a blazer.
Yeah, I agree.
I usually don't. I mean, usually I had an appointment yesterday. I was in my polo shirt with a guy.
On a webinar. Have you worn a blazer?
Yeah, I usually wear this just to, to look like distinguished. Some modicum of decency and
You know, we had to clear all of that stuff off the ledge, that was all the markers and.
so Michael, you're on. I'm chewing on a grape, huh?
Oh, you guys changed the questions?
Yeah, okay.
What's that?
Did you guys change the questions?
No, Jay and I worked on a few that he forwarded to Larry, who I think forwarded to you.
Yeah, just kind of.
They made there's one change.
There was one?
An
Oh.
important change.
What is the?
See revised. Larry just sent an email.
On which,
I think he went back and retyped it. The one that said on the CRT, the portion that you give to the CRT and the portion that you spell is the portion that you retain.
if I
Oh.
want to do the gift
and sale or the CRT and sale?
Right, but it
How do I-
closed. No.
How do I know what
It
portion
washes
to
out his
give
face.
or transfer to the CRT and what portion?
Yeah. That's a layman's question. Yeah.
That's a big difference. So,
Okay, so number 5 should say at the end, is the only word is retained.
And Larry just sent the new questions. That's that neat.
I just put them into my notes, so.
I'm just saying, you just sent the email.
and then the other one,
I got it.
the question on the advisors, I think it's 7 or 8, where it has your attorney and your CPA. Grammar on that should be go with your CPA and attorney, how it does it.
Okay, can we interrupt for a minute? We've got some sound issues going on here. Either somebody's got their settings set for their laptop speaker or laptop mic is picking up. Okay, are you hearing anything in the webinar?
I am not, but let me see.
Oh, okay.
My microphone is not muted. Can you hear me?
I'm asking you if you hear, if you're hearing.
Nothing.
Let's start there.
Nothing.
Okay. So are you muted? Do you have your speakers muted?
I have my earphones muted. My speaker is unmuted. Never was muted.
Okay, and we're talking about down the right-hand corner, right?
Yes, sir. The earphones are muted. Wait.
Where's that noise coming from? Is that coming from me?
So then I have to mute.
So to answer your question, Jim, I don't hear anything in my earphones.
Okay.
But my voice is coming through somehow.
I don't hear anything either. 'Cause I muted, so I'm cool.
Good Jamaican music, man.
Am I supposed to push join?
Or help. Yes.
I thought I was already.
I'll tell you, that right there is making this side of my face. And look like I'm in this.
Oh, I hear one. There's something.
Oh yeah, that's pretty bright.
Okay, Jim, I can hear everybody now.
You can.
Now I can for some reason.
No change or anything.
Didn't touch a thing. I heard Mark speak.
Mark, this
Yep.
is test you. How's your headset? And first, can you hear? Can you speak, Mike?
7 years ago.
Cool. Can we test your mic?
Sure. Do you want me to speak? And just speak some more?
Let me know.
And speak some more? And more.
Can you hear him, Jay?
Can you hear me, Jay? Yes.
Bill, we're testing the headset, so when I ask if you can hear him, I'm asking you through equipment.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear him?
Yes, I
You can
can.
hear me through
And I'm
the...
about to turn it down for the webinar. Yes, now, yes.
Testing now.
Yes.
We need to test everything. So you're good to go.
I am good to go.
but You're not.
You know, you
Okay, that's fine. Oh, yeah, good, good.
Well, we're all evil through gravity and all that.
There's none righteous. No.
Well, that's right. We're not one.
Yes, I'll speak just as plainly as I can. Yeah.
It's coming through your speakers.
We don't want that.
Can you hear now?
Okay, let's try it again. I did
How about now? Ah, here we go. So you heard it in both places.
Okay, so you're good.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All here, Jay?
Yeah.
Big J?
For what the reading is, which was what's the word, he now for ever taken from my sight. For nothing
No.
about this plan to the ground.
I can hear Mark.
Mark wasn't speaking.
Before, sorry.
We're testing. again? Do you speak?
For whatever radiance which was once so bright, now forever taken from my sight. For nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the clouds, glory in the flowers. We will not weaken, rather climb, strengthen what remains behind.
Kind of muffled.
I hear nothing. I'm like Sergeant Schultz. I hear nothing.
I hear nothing.
Again?
I think he's working there.
That's good. That was on mute.
Of him?
I haven't touched anything.
What's Michael?
Okay, test again. For what those radiance which was once so bright, be now forever taken from my sight. For nothing can bring back the hour
Very
of
faint,
splendor.
Yeah.
and it's kind of echoey and distant.
For what though the radiance which was once so bright, be now forever taken from my sight.
Very distant, very faint.
It has this feature that I added.
Hey, what's, Larry, what are the changes again to the questions? There were two changes. There were two changes. One was,
They were just, this was changed to retain, and this one was changed to.
Try now.
From
which number?
I hear Mark, I hear you very echoey.
Mark, you hear Jay?
I don't. Go ahead. It's the same muffled, really quiet.
You're coming clear of mine. But
Yeah.
it's sloppy. Meet 3 hours before. Well, I don't know if you know, Steve Mark. His dad died a couple weeks ago. So
It's like muffled for some reason. It's like,
he was in hospice, and yeah. So I was out. They had a funeral last week, and just FYI.
Thank you, I've been meaning to. I think I left a message on the.
How close do you have this to?
not very. It's a couple inches.
Just FYI. I know. I'm not sure how they put that out there to communicate, but
I called her from the airport.
do what?
Better.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
So you added, Larry, you added this line. Don't my CPA and attorney already know about this? Don't.
You know, the uneducated may say it the other way.
I did, because initially I was. I had a signal and I added the others and I need to go back and correct it.
I'll try new sets. His business seems to be doing better. They say it again?
Wow.
About a 2-second delay, but it came through.
Yeah, it is a delay. But is it audible? Can you hear it?
For what the radiance was, no, I can hear myself.
Okay, I can hear it. It's still kind of echoey.
It's really loud for me. Yeah, I hear myself.
So,
This-
you're doing something audio?
Did I?
Well, I don't know what about the screen now. Okay, that says Dell, that's weird.
Oh, you're using
Oh, you think it comes up by the default?
So not,
You're not hearing you well. You don't have good audio, huh?
it's broken and echoey a wee bit.
We'll turn this.
Okay, go ahead. Test.
For what though the radiance which was once so bright, be now forever taken, boy, I'm getting a major feedback.
It's kind of, that buffering effect kind of buffered. I know we had an issue
It's
before.
almost like it's onboard mic is on.
I remember one of our webinars, maybe it was the last one, we had to re-record it because we had that echoey buffering issues, whatever it was that you cleaned up, Jim.
That's what's going on.
Try to get us something different.
For what though the radiance which, yep, I'm still hearing myself.
But no, but that's much clearer.
Okay.
Go ahead, say if you.
For what though the radiance which was once so bright, be now forever taken from my sight. So nothing
Much better. Not 100%, but it's a slight echoey, but it's way, way, way better. Maybe someone else should listen, but
I'm listening.
What do you think, Mark?
It's almost like underwater, kind of.
Okay.
You know what? I feel like maybe it's really.
You're very clear in my ear.
Yeah, we're very clear.
Very clear from you. Michael, say something.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I wonder if he's got a
Very clear
bum,
from you.
one of these.
I changed
This?
the whole headset.
Is it the computer?
Yeah, there's some. It's a setting. Okay, Jay. Let me drive. Let me sit down
Yeah,
there and
please
see
do.
if I can troubleshoot this.
I didn't do anything last night.
Well, you didn't drop it out of the window, and you.
We're sure we've got these in the right steps.
Sorry, I got to change my notes here, dude. Attorney. So I have some surprising news.
Testing.
That's
So I'm not hearing.
happy
I'm not hearing
news.
myself at all now, Jay. You were saying you were getting feedback.
I have
I was hearing myself when
diarrhea,
I talked.
and,
Really?
In the left.
What?
and so I need to have
So you're not-
access to be out of
Okay.
here fairly. But I mean, I don't want to go behind him. I mean, when we start, if he go,
I'm just gonna try a
Mhm.
couple of different settings.
I guess I
So
could
is you-
crawl.
Okay.
Good.
Can we test this? See how this is.
Nothing.
Nothing. You're not hearing anything. Huh?
I don't hear a thing.
I heard it, but it was delayed and echo and.
All right. How about that? Is that any better?
I don't hear any.
Much better in my.
I don't hear anything.
Go ahead, Jim,
You're
again.
not hearing anything.
Nothing.
Jim,
That
go ahead.
is so strange. Yeah. So here we are. We're trying to get these different settings set up, and I can't.
That sounds, to me, it sounds much clearer, but it's not as much, little distortion of any. To register, I mean, you sign it, hang on.
Go in, just go in.
The good news is I don't need to hear. I'm actually not going to wear these. The question is are people on the outside going to be
Yes.
able to?
Yes, they can see that.
No, that's what the question is hearing, because I shut my earphones down when we start, so I don't hear, because I can hear enough.
Yeah.
listening.
Okay. Can you guys hear me now?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me
Yes.
now? Okay.
It's muffled and
It's
low.
muffled?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah, tell them. I hear water. This is why we start 3 hours early. Yeah, it sounds like running water.
The fuzzy sound.
Well, it's not-
okay, is this any better, any chance?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, I adjusted the sound. Okay, Jay, I think you're there.
I don't know, it sounds
I'm hearing it, but, I think it's
What you could do, Jay, you could
Can you hear it?
volume on the
earphones. And remember, yes, and remember yesterday, you guys were using your headsets. We're just testing now to make sure the broadcast is correct. And so, okay?
And are we? Can you guys hear me still? Can you still hear me? Crystal clear, and can you hear me? Okay, so we can hear each other. So the question is does the outside?
That's what we just tested. And I just was able to confirm that.
Isn't there a rock and roll song?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
And Kim, would this be terrible to have this like this?
I'm trying to look at the question.
Not to me, but I'm not the producer.
Hey,
I'll put it in the comments.
I'm just wondering. Yes. I'm just wondering if I can have this microphone, John. Are you listening to me?
No.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
And you can hear me loud and clear?
It's good.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just want to know if I can have these down here. Because I don't really need
Where's the mic?
It's right here.
Oh, okay. As I speak, can anybody hear me clearly as I speak? So we could actually have the microphone down below and not on our head. If that's coming in clearly, can you? Well, you can't hear because you have the earphones on, right?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me if my microphone is sitting in front of me like that? It's not in the picture. Well, that's great. Now you have your hands free and your ears aren't sweating.
Well, that really looks,
I'm going to try that.
that really looks.
So, Jim, I've placed my microphone right here at the base of the computer, and they can hear me just fine.
And I'm going to do likewise because it's actually,
So we're
they say they can hear me clearly, so.
Larry, we're going to put our microphones in this.
If it works, yeah.
Like this?
And we'll run through one, yeah, we don't have to go through, so.
Yeah, we're going to do a dry run.
I think I have to leave. I'm
Larry?
gonna put you guys on YouTube.
You weren't in the room.
This is new.
Can you hear me? I have. But I'm just being able to get out of the room like, quickly and not with a lot of sound. So would you prefer I do this or crawl underneath? And go
Jim,
over
did you
there?
add another?
Hopefully, Mark, you have,
It looks like I got
you have the beginning and the end, hopefully in between you can be.
Okay. You added
I've
another
gone
volume.
to the bathroom 3 times so far.
Okay, I have a lower and lower. Okay.
I don't know what I got, but you got it.
Okay.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I'm just wondering if I should make a
Testing, 1, 2,
that way instead of
3.
that way.
Hey, yeah, I know this, well, I know this sounds weird, I'm afraid that I won't go without them, therefore I think it's more than that than just not being able to see.
Testing. You know, it's interesting, Tori. This site is live. This site's like the abyss on the camera there.
Dry run.
It's so dark.
Cell phones are
So,
fun.
let's see.
Whatever you think is best. You're our lighting professional, union guy, right?
Okay.
I think the problem you're playing towards the corner versus, yeah, that may work because it's really dark off to my right shoulder. You know, without burning yourself. It did lighten it up a little bit. You could just pointing at the wall more.
As far as you point at the wall.
All right. I can always just turn my computer to face more the.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
just
let's start off with prayer
see
and
if I
then
have a picture of that.
carry on.
Yeah, I'm going to pray this morning about that personal and Mary runs this and everything around and the husband's not
Not just with weather.
so this definitely is a part of it, but I did want to spend a little more time praying today. Going on and Christmas idea is I just but you don't know what happens when you people are involved. Before, and so I'm just like sort of was praying.
Okay.
Just leave it off the walls right now.
Right there.
Thank you, I provided you. School and people with wonderful blessings, all thank you for coming together and you were going to the all the farms and went to school. You were really keep their heart. You give them a number of them you follow. You know, you have to guide and spirit work, yes, supernatural information, the technology, and then we want to faith, believe that and incorporate that. Father, thank you. Really want to do something.
Yes.
And you use it for honor. Not capable of part of too much time and guys,
God, I thank you for the skills that are influenced in our hospital, people that understand technology and understand sound and lighting, all those things that really are important to make this come across well. And so we pray that there would be no glitches in any of the technology, any of the environmental issues that we have. We also pray that you would be with Mark, that you give him physical stamina and a sense of ease and presence to usher in the webinar and to also close it out in a way that is gracious and puts people at ease and invites them to the table. And God, I pray for Michael and I'm humbled to be able to be a part of this process, and I pray that you give both of us clarity of mind, help us to be articulate, to be skillful in time, and pray that the passing off between us would be seamless. Father, we have information to share that's really important. We believe that. And this is all about your will. And so we totally are dependent upon you being a part of our lives. And we just claim your presence, we claim your power, and we ask that you would do things above and beyond what we could ever ask or think. We pray this in your name.
I agree, Father, and I would ask that you would prepare the hearts and the minds of the men and women who will listen and watch today, that as they learn new information about tools that are usable for leveraging their ability to be stewards in the kingdom, that they would act on that, and they'd contact either Michael or Jay or whomever in order to enact protocols that would leverage resources for kingdom work. So God, even now, right now, I pray that you would move on the hearts and the minds and clear schedules of people who otherwise would not have been able to be on this webinar can now, and that they see the need they have to be stewards who are rich towards God. Not an organization, but towards you, God, that they would be rich towards you. Thank you, Jesus, for what you're going to do as a direct result of this effort here today.
We're going prayers and just lift this way up to you. Just thank you that we can trust in you and that you're present with us. I just pray for focus for Stu and I, and technology, and everything that comes prayer. I thank you for Troy and give us the guiding and guidance that connected to it. Pray this. Pray for peace and calm for all of us this afternoon. And you just give us comfort and we trust in you. Pray the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can get some miracle.
Thinking about Michael
What's that?
is, because Mark's out of the room, but, they kind of talked about this coming in this morning, but we got this great video of this. And turning.
Yeah. I like that.
And maybe what we think about, I talked to him, but maybe before we go to questions, we could say, let's hear from someone who's benefited from these remote call or having incoming questions through the email. And I'll be right back and we'll go to question and answer time. Then they could play this little.
I mean, like 3 days left.
We're not going to do all of them. There's two things.
Yeah, I have one.
One talks about his own stewardship. One talks about his role as an attorney himself.
Remember that.
And then the third one is that this is something you can realize that.
I remember watching off the video and quality. I don't have to recall, so everyone got it.
Yeah.
They were excellent vignettes.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell the last time they didn't enough time to listen to the
Because we were so focused on getting the electronic part working.
I like the idea. Well, we're gathering questions, this will be inherent. I love it.
Because I think it's very powerful, but I think it kind of had a credibility from somebody else.
I'm just
So I'm all for it. I look for that.
We've done,
part
you
of
know,
the
I've been about
slides.
Baylor and Harvard Law Schools. I mean, I still
Just
think
this panel. Okay.
Let's do it. Literally, it is broken.
Oh, is that
I think that's probably the best.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, at the end, when we get questions. That's fabulous. I like that.
And I think because we're gonna finish in about 33 minutes, hopefully people won't bail out. But that would, just to kind of close it out with that, because he said, he makes the challenge, that what you guys offer is really of value.
Yeah, right.
And if they do leave and don't want to stick with the questions,
At least they've seen that video.
yeah, and that's kind of,
Oh, I like it. I'm not good at it.
it's a little more, it's an addition to Mark. As we finish the actual presentation, to set up the Q&A time, say, we're gonna pause for a couple of minutes to hear a short video while we're gathering questions as they're coming in through the email. And then that's when we'll pop up and play 1 or 2 minutes of the Paul Martin.
Can we do that?
They can look into it, or you can maybe start it.
Well, technically, it doesn't seem like we're able to broadcast YouTube videos, Hangout. We can do a Hangout and show YouTube videos, but it doesn't broadcast the internet. I think it's by design by Google. The only other way to do it is actually do it through the Hangout and stream video over the Hangout. So there must be a way to do it. I can take a look at it, so maybe we can do it.
Let's look into it.
So these are no good.
Those are the older ones.
What is the change of the culture in the
So, Jane, are you satisfied with the camera angle and location?
Yeah. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, I think so. Looks like it's on space.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Up above your head.
Do you want more?
we caught that because it was a way to get a better angle on the light.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just double checking.
And if you cock it anymore, that's going to be hard for me to read the slides.
Yeah.
I wish I had a bigger head.
I never heard a guy say that before.
Come on. Michael, by the way, can you go by Michael and not Mike?
I know.
Okay.
I made the mistake.
I just like
Well, I want to make sure I do the pass off.
No, that's fine. I prefer Michael.
Okay. Note that if I don't, it's not intentional, so I forget.
What do you mean? Sorry, why?
So are you not putting the headset on?
No. But I'm trying to hear it, because I think it's pretty clear.
Okay, are we ready to start?
No, that's it. So,
That's a rhetorical question.
I guess what I'd like to do is just, since this is dress rehearsal, we'll start off with Mark doing if we decide it's going to be 5 minutes beforehand, is that what we best?
Yeah,
5 to go?
that's gonna be there like, 20 minutes out, 15 minutes out.
Yeah, I think we did a 15 and a 5.
15 and a
Yeah.
5? Okay, so we'll do that. So,
15 seems long. It should be 10.
10? Okay. So do a 10 and a 5? Okay.
all right. So we'll just, why don't we say we've done the 10 and just do the 5,
Okay.
and then we won't wait 5 minutes. Just, on my cue.
Okay. Can you see me? Am I in the thing? I'm in the field of view. Good afternoon or evening, depending on where you are, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mark Mayers from the Jesus Film Project offices in Laguna Niguel, California. Welcome to our webinar. We're going to get started in just about 5 minutes. I just wanted to give you a 5-minute warning. We'll get started in just 5 minutes. Thank you for logging on. See you in a minute. Or 5 minutes.
Now, again, we're live. So, quiet on the set, exactly. So, you want to remember.
Hmm?
Did you mute?
I did not.
Okay.
You want me to?
Well, otherwise, it'll be broadcast. If you want to try not to speak, but I can mute. And then are you, everybody else is using that. Okay, that was great, Mark. So next, I guess we'll let you do the intro.
Good afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Wycliffe Foundation and the Jesus Film Project, welcome and thank you for joining our 5th in a series of webinars on topics related to gift and estate design. My name is Mark Mayers, and I'll serve as your moderator for the next hour. I'm one of the regional representatives of the Fund Development area of the Jesus Film Project office here in the Southwest United States. Perhaps some of you watching today have taken part in some of our past webinars. If so, welcome back. Today's session is entitled Appreciated Assets, Your Key to Leveraging Tax Dollars for Greater Kingdom Impact. By the way, if you missed any of the previous 4 seminars, webinars that is, the recordings of that content are available at the link you see on the screen you're looking at right now. Presentations today come to you through the joint partnership of the Wycliffe Foundation and the Jesus Film Project, a ministry of Campus Crusade for Christ. Wycliffe and JFP have worked together for many, many years in the area of language translation, but now we're teaming up to serve our ministry partners, financial partners, of both of these organizations in the area of gift and estate design. By the way, also joining us today are friends from other Campus Crusade for Christ ministries like Athletes in Action and the International School Project, as well as other Wycliffe family ministries such as the Seed Company, JARS, and the Graduate Institute of Linguistics. So welcome everybody. Through the power of web technology, our presenters are going to share with you essential concepts that can help you to preserve your estate, provide more for those you love, and advance the ministries and organizations you care about most. A number of past webinar participants have already taken advantage of this opportunity. Effective stewardship has been executed, and lives have been changed as a direct result. During our webinar, you'll no doubt have questions for our experts. We'll answer those questions at the end of our presentations, which should take approximately 25 to 30 minutes. During the session, you may submit your questions at any time via that text box at the right-hand corner of your computer screen. If after our time together today, you would like to share this presentation with others, or for some reason you need to leave early today, a recording of this content will be available at the web address, at the same web address, after October 6th. Our presenters are here with me in Laguna Niguel, California today. So let me introduce our gift and estate design experts. Michael Acapente is from Monument, Colorado. Michael has worked in the area of gift and estate design for over 27 years with organizations like Campus Crusade for Christ and the Salvation Army. He's currently a gift planning advisor for the Wycliffe Foundation, a ministry of Wycliffe Bible translators. Michael studied business and economics at UCLA. Wow, 2 majors. That's hustling, Michael. And holds a master's degree in taxation from USC. Who does that? That's awesome. Welcome to the webinar, Michael.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. And welcome to all our viewers.
Jay Link is from the suburbs of Grand Rapids, Michigan, is also joining us here in our Jesus Film headquarters in Southern California. Jay has served in financial and philanthropic leadership goals for a Fortune 5,000, Fortune 1,000 company for over 30 years. Since joining Crew as a gift and estate planning consultant, Jay has used his expertise in accounting and in charitable giving to help ministry partners become more effective stewards of the resources God has entrusted to them. Hey, Jay has an MBA and has earned professional designations in Certified Public Accounting, Certified Management Accounting, and Certified Gift Planning Associate. So how certifiable are you, Jay? Welcome to this webinar, Jay.
Thank you, Mark. It's great to be here today.
Wow, what a joy for me to be here, too. Both Jay and Michael have served hundreds of ministry partners for many years, helping them leverage their current giving as well as deferred giving after their homegoing. So if your goal is to be the most effective, efficient steward you can be, well, you're in the right place with these two guys. Without further introduction, let me turn this presentation over to Jay. Jay?
I'm waiting for the slide to come. You know, the whole notion of talking about appreciated assets is part of a much is much part of a bigger topic about biblical stewardship, and that entails what would God have you to do with the assets that He has entrusted to you. So it's important that we understand the biblical definition of steward, and the definition that I have come to appreciate is the definition of a steward is one who uses God-given abilities to manage God-owned properties to accomplish God-directed results. And when I think about the whole notion of a steward, there's a couple core principal values that I think that we need to understand as it relates to this. First of all, God is the owner of all that we have. We have access to it and we have disposal of it, but we have ownership residing with Him. We are simply stewards of it. Secondly, the planning process as it relates to estate and gift planning is a spiritual process at its core. Now today we'll talk about interest rates and various financial and legal terms, but at its very core, it's a spiritual process, and it's something that we want to invite God into. And then lastly, the third principle is that God gives gifts to us, both intangible and tangible, to be used for the glory of God. So that raises the question, how can you be a more effective and tax-wise steward? Today we'll cover a number of topics. They're outlined on the screen here for you. First of all, we will talk about how you can make capital gain taxes optional. Secondly, we'll look at how you can multiply the impact of your giving through appreciated assets. Third, we'll look at how you can take your tax dollars for kingdom and trade them for kingdom dollars to increase your charitable impact and build your legacy. And fourth, we'll review and learn from some case studies of others who have used these strategies very effectively. Michael, if you would talk about taxes for a little bit for us.
Sure, thank you, Jay. Well, with taxes, just like salvation, you get bad news, you get good news. The bad news is we face a lot of taxes. You've got several layers, such as income taxes, both the federal and state level. You have the federal capital gain tax, again, at both the federal and state level. And some states, if you're fortunate enough to live in those states where there's no capital gain tax or tax, you're blessed. But most states do have that. In addition to income taxes, capital gain taxes, there's also the Affordable Care Act, known as the Obamacare tax, which for people, again, of certain income levels, is a fifth layer, really, of taxation. And so, why we talk about taxes? Well, that's kind of the bad news. But the good news is, as we'll see as we go through this webinar, is that a lot of these taxes can be made optional through good planning. I love that there's a famous, well-known judge, Learned Hand, one of the more quotable people in our judiciary. He had a great quote when it came to talking about taxes. And the quote he said was, "Anyone may arrange his affairs so taxes shall be as low as possible, and he's not bound to choose a pattern which best pays the treasury. There's not even a patriotic duty to increase one's taxes. Over and over again, the courts have said that there's nothing sinister in so arranging one's affairs to keep taxes as low as possible. Everyone does it, both rich and poor alike, can all do right, but nobody owes any public duty to pay more than law demands. To demand more than even morals is fair payment. And so what we hope to share with you today again is taxes can be optional, at least some of them. And in particular, because of the topic of our webinar today is on appreciated assets, we're talking about capital gains, a big part of that. And essentially there are three ways to go with capital gain taxes. You can pay the tax and be done with it. But as you saw from the previous slide, that could be as high as 30–40% taxation. That's significant. You can postpone them, and many people do this through devices such as installment sales, or better yet, a 1031 exchange. Or you can avoid bypass the taxes. Now, there's only two ways to do so under our current tax law. The first one is death and dying, and it's probably not the preferred option for many of us just yet. And the other one is charitable giving, how you can transfer tax dollars to kingdom dollars. And you're going to hear that phrase a lot. You may not be able to keep it all, but at least you have the option of transferring those dollars to charitable causes and ministries you believe in versus sending it to the treasury. Jay, back to you.
Thank you, Michael. There's a number of benefits from gifting appreciated assets. First of all, as Michael talked about the different layers of tax savings, you'll experience those benefits when you gift appreciated assets. You'll also be able to realize some substantial giving from your assets as opposed to just cash flow. You know, there's an interesting statistic there in stewardship circles, and the statistic says that most people that give out of only 9% of their resources, and those are their liquid assets, their cash, or perhaps their income stream. But when we look at appreciated assets, we help people to tap into the other 91% of their assets, which are illiquid, and to use that for kingdom purposes. And the last thing that you experience as a benefit from the gifting appreciated assets is the transferring of tax dollars to kingdom dollars. You'll learn that you can reduce or totally eliminate certain taxes, and then you have the option to choose to use those taxes for kingdom purposes. What are the assets that we want to consider as we think about appreciated assets? Well, there's four categories, and we'll talk about several of these today. The first one is securities, and when we think about securities, we think about stock or mutual funds. The second one would be real estate. When we think about real estate, we would think about rental property. It could be land, it could be commercial property. It could also be a personal residence. The third category would be a business interest. Perhaps you're a business owner and you have C stock or S stock, or you have an LLC or a family limited partnership. Those are, again, all the other options of which you can tap into those because of the appreciated value of those shares. And then the last category that we at least want to mention is the whole notion of artwork and collectibles. And when we think about collectibles, we think about jewelry, precious metals, perhaps stamp collections, and those kinds of things. So let's look at some case studies from individuals who have used these tax-wise strategies and have been extremely effective at doing that. Michael, would you walk us through the first one?
Sure, thank you, Jay. And as you see in the note there, these case studies for illustrative purposes, your situation is different, but they really capture what you can do when it comes to charitable estate and gift planning. So let's look at the first case study, which we call quintuple tax savings. And no, that's not having quintuplets, although you would get tax savings from that. But there can be some amazing tax savings when you make a gift of an appreciated asset when compared to perhaps a cash contribution. And many times, at least from a tax perspective and some other perspectives, an appreciated asset gift can be quite just better when it comes to tax planning. So we look at the case here, with the case of Nick and Rachel, and they own an asset that is worth, as you can see, $10,000. They paid $4,000, and they're a high tax bracket. Income tax is about 40%. Now, if Jay and Rachel would make a cash gift of, say, $10,000 to their favorite charities, they would get about a $10,000 deduction, which would save them about $4,000 in taxes. But let's compare that to if they made that same $10,000 gift from an appreciated asset. And let's look at the tax savings and results of doing that. So, looking at the next slide, we have the top part, given an appreciated asset gift, it's worth $10,000. Well, the tax law allows you to take a $10,000 deduction. based upon the fair market value. Now, of course, they're going to save income taxes by taking that deduction. Both the federal and state taxes, about $4,000 combined. But look at the next three lines. They have capital gain tax savings on the federal level of 20% or $1,200. They have the Obamacare tax or Affordable Care tax, 3.8%. And they have the state capital gain taxes. Add up all those tax savings, you're talking about $5,700 compared to a $4,000 economic benefit from a cash gift. That's, if you put it percentage-wise, that's a 43% increase in the tax benefits of giving an appreciated asset. And guess what? You still have the $10,000 in your checking account. Go on a vacation. I won't say that. I'm sorry. So you can see, making a gift of an appreciated asset can be quite beneficial. Now, let's look at that a wee bit differently. Let's say, that's great, Michael, Jay, but I want to support more than just one ministry. Let me share a really great case that we worked on a year ago where there was a couple. We're going to call them Joe and Don. They were in real estate all their lives. In fact, they collected quite a nice portfolio of real estate, all of which is appreciated because much of it's here in Southern California or up in Washington. So they came and said, we like this idea of asset giving, but we want to support more than one ministry. How can we do that? We have our church. We have two other ministries. I probably say Crusade, Wycliffe, but that wasn't the case. How can they do that? How can they do that without, and of course they know triggering selling the property would trigger a major capital gain tax. So what could we do? Well, we suggested a donor advised fund. And essentially, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, but essentially what they did is they were able to donate this asset into a donor advised fund or a DAFT. They got a full fair market value deduction, so they got the income tax deductions, and again, they avoided the capital gain taxes. Once that real estate was sold, the DAFT had funds into it, and now it's kind of like their own personal foundation. They can make grants to the churches and other ministries. So it was a wonderful tool to take this idea of giving an appreciated asset, but spreading it out so it could be the more than one charitable cause, which we all have. Just a brief explanation how a donor advised fund works. Essentially, you set up the fund with a charity that sponsors it. I know both Crusade and Wycliffe sponsor donor advised funds. You make a gift of the assets into that donor advised fund, and you get the income tax deduction. And in the case of the asset, we have to sell it. But when that's sold, there's cash available. And then Joe and Don get the direct and admit grants out of their donor advised funds to various charitable causes and ministries which they believe in. So another great tool just to look at the idea of asset-based giving. Let me share one more case study, and then I know Jay has several case studies as well. Another question, well, that's really good too, but what if I don't want to give it all away? What do I want to keep some? What do I do in that case? Well, we use a strategy called a gift and sale. Sometimes we call it a zero tax gift and sale. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But this is, again, another real couple. Name's been changed. Kurt and Cindy on farmland, which they inherited many years ago. Back in the day, when their father bought the farm, the total cost basis was $100,000. But now, if you follow the farmland prices, it's accelerated quite a bit. That's worth $500,000. And because it's a valuable piece of property, they've had several people make offers at buying that property. But frankly, they said, yeah, we'd like to sell it. In fact, then we wouldn't do the farm. It's over 2,000 miles away the other side of the country, essentially. But we don't want to pay $120,000 in capital gain taxes. What can we do? We know we can't keep it all if we sell it, but if there's not a way we can make this a win-win, well, the gift and sale strategy is one way to make it a win-win. And here's what we did. We ran a program, which Jay and I both have access to determine, well, let me back up a moment. This next slide, my apologies, just shows you the net tax effect. They sold it, $120,000 capital gain. That's a loss of capital. That's 30% that they no longer have use of, they no longer producing income, that is just gone. And there's nothing to the kingdom. So now, the next slide, let's look and see what we suggested. We said, well, here's an idea. Why don't we divide the ownership of this property into two undivided portions, a sale portion and a gift portion. And essentially, what we're going to suggest is you give enough, and in this case, about $210,000 to charity, and you're going to keep about a $290,000 interest yourself, and then together we're going to sell this the whole land, 2 owners, one land. Well, as you can see, when they sell, they're still going to have a capital gain tax liability of about $69,000. But you also notice the charitable gift is going to generate a charitable deduction of about $69,000. And essentially what we do is use the deduction from the contribution to offset the capital gain taxes on the sale portion. And essentially what we have is a zero tax effect. They pay no taxes. They've gotten about $290,000 tax-free, and they've given over $200,000 to the work of the kingdom to be used to advance the Bible, Jesus, and other causes. So, as you hope you can see with these first 3 examples, you can make an outright gift, you can make a gift into a donor rise fund to spread it around. You don't have to give it all away. The gift sale provides you with a way of doing what we call a zero tax solution. I'm going to hand it back over to my colleague Jay, who has some more case ideas to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Those are great illustrations, and I appreciate you sharing those with us. The one that I want to talk about here for the next couple minutes is how we might employ a charitable remainder trust. A charitable remainder trust is a specially designed trust that affords some unique tax advantages. So let's look at John and Melinda. They're both 66, and they've recently retired. And they've always enjoyed giving to kingdom causes. They would like to receive some additional income in addition to their Social Security and their pensions so that they can travel more during retirement. 20 years ago, John and Melinda purchased stock in a publicly held company, and at the time the stock cost $50,000. But recent dividends that have been earned on that stock have been quite small, so they're concerned that they're not going to be able to generate the income that they need for retirement. So they're thinking about selling that stock, and its current market value would be $200,000. So the question that we would ask is there a way that they can utilize the stock to generate additional income during retirement and avoid the capital gains taxes and also help their favorite ministry? Yes, I believe there is, and they can do that by transferring stock into a charitable remainder trust. So let's look at the next slide, which is a flow chart that we'll walk you through very briefly. That will give you an idea as to how this vehicle works. So you can see on the left side with the rectangle that they have the property. In this case, it's stock. It's valued at $200,000 and has a cost basis of $50,000. And what they would do is they would transfer that stock into what we would call a 5% unit trust, which is another term for a charitable remainder trust. Now, when they make that transfer, they experience 2 benefits. First of all, they get out of having to pay for the capital gains tax on that capital gain of $150,000, but they also get an income tax deduction for the value that they transfer into the trust. And that income tax deduction does generate some cash savings for it. Once that transfer is made into the trust, then that stock is sold, and it would be invested in a diversified portfolio. The trustee of that trust would then take 5% of that value every year and pay it to John and Melinda for the rest of their lives. So they would get $10,000 for the next 25 years, and so in their retirement you would see they would get nearly $250,000, a significant help to the retirement income. If you look at the rectangle on the right side, the final bonus to this whole arrangement is that if the trust is able to earn what it pays out, the amount that's placed into the trust will retain its integrity and will be available to go to the charity of their choice when they pass without having to go through probate. So you can see this vehicle is a great way to accomplish a number of objectives for a couple in this particular situation. Let's look at another illustration. This kind of combines the charitable remainder trust that we just talked about and also the notion of a gift and sale that Michael talked about earlier. So we have a couple here called Don and Dolores, and 20 years ago in the mid-1990s, they inherited 20 acres of wooded land in northern Michigan that at the time was worth $30,000. They've kept the land thinking that when they retire, on that land they would build a cottage, and they would spend time there with their 3 children and their grandchildren. Unfortunately, in recent years, their 3 children and their family have moved to warmer southern states, so building the cottage in northern Michigan no longer makes a lot of sense. So they're considering selling the land for $150,000, which is its current value, and then using that cash to buy an RV so that they can travel south to visit their family, and then investing the balance for retirement. So the question that we would ask Don and Dolores is there a way that they can sell the land, avoid capital gains taxes, generate some cash flow now and for the future, and also help support their favorite ministry? Yes, I think there is a strategy that can be employed to accomplish that, and it would entail transferring a portion of the land to the CRT, retaining a portion for themselves, and then having the entire land be sold. So let's look at the flow chart on this page and walk through how this would actually work. So again, if you look at the rectangle on the left side, you see they have property that's valued for $150,000. That's the land, and that has a cost basis of 30, so a gain of $120,000. So they would take a portion of that value of $150,000, and they would retain a portion for themselves. They would keep title to it, but they would also then take another portion, and they would have that transferred into a unit trust, a 5% unit trust, similar to what we looked at in the previous illustration. Now, keep in mind, when they go ahead and transfer the portion into the unit trust, they get the same benefits that we talked about earlier. They're able to avoid the capital gains taxes, plus they also get an income tax deduction that generates some cash savings for them. But remember, they have retained a portion of that land themselves, so when they sell that portion, they will experience some capital gain on that with some taxes. But if the transaction is structured appropriately, the tax savings from the one deduction offsets the taxes that they owe on the other, and so therefore they have zero tax obligations. Let's look at that center rectangle at the bottom, and again, similar to what we saw in the previous example, with the 5% unit trust, when those proceeds come from the sale of the land, then they would go ahead and invest that in a diversified portfolio. And out of that portfolio, they would receive 5% a year for the remainder of their lives, which is a little over $4,000 a year, which in their retirement would generate a total of $91,000, quite a substantial amount to augment their other retirement income. If you look at the item on the right side of the flow chart, again, we see the final bonus to this arrangement is that if the trust earns at least the same amount that it pays out, then the unit trust value does not decrease, and it's available for their favorite charity when they pass on, without having to go through probate. So you can see a variety of benefits with this particular transaction. Let's look at one more. This is called a charitable equitable partnership, and this is a particularly useful strategy to be used for people that own their own business. And let's look at an example here of an individual by the name of Joe Jordan. And Joe's owned a successful real estate development business, and he's been passionate about spreading the gospel, so he has used his business to give as much as he could to support ministry causes. But he still wants to do more. He's recently learned about the Charitable Equity Partnership, which allowed him to release a portion of his business, and by doing that accelerate some tax deductions, increase his cash flow for reinvestment purposes if he so chooses, and then free up additional money for ministry purposes. So let's talk about the sequence of events that would make that happen for Joe. Well, as a business owner, Joe decided to donate a minority non-voting interest in his business to an entity that we have created called the Great Commission Foundation Trust. When he does that, when he makes that donation, he receives a tax deduction, which then has some savings associated with it. The shares that are then held by the trust, the profit that is earned on those shares is taxed at no more than half of Joe's individual tax rate. So you can see some real benefit for him there. And then that net profit, after those taxes are paid, is transferred into a donor-advised fund. And similar to what Michael had shared with us earlier, then he advises on its distribution to the ministries of his choice. So let's look at a flow chart that walks us through how this would work as well. So here we see Joe. He takes a portion of his business, and we don't know whether it's a C corporation or S corporation, could be an LLC, could be a limited partnership. Any one of those will work in this situation. He transfers a portion of those shares into the Great Commission Foundation Trust. When he does that, he gets a deduction which generates some cash savings for him. Now he can choose to use that cash savings to reinvest back in the business or for personal. That's really up to whatever his preference would be. But on the share that's held in the trust, there is income that will be earned for that as long as it's held in the trust. And that income then gets passed along into the donor advised fund that's been created within the Great Commission Foundation. And also, when those shares get sold, because eventually he will sell his business and the portion that's in the trust will get sold as well, that will generate capital gains as well that will go into the donor advised fund. And then Joe has the opportunity to direct those funds that are in the donor advised fund to ministries of his choice. So you can see this is a great way for a business owner to create additional cash flow for significant ministry purposes, and using some of the techniques that we've already learned about can really expand his kingdom influence. Michael, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Jay. We've shared some ideas with you that some may be familiar, some may not. But in the context of that, let's put a famous Greek fella, I think he was Greek, Aristotle said to give away money is an easy matter, and in any man's power, but to decide to whom to give, how large, and when, and for what purpose, and how, is neither in every man's power nor an easy matter. Hence it is that such excellence is rare, praiseworthy, and noble. What Jay and I do is we show you how to do it. We've shown you some ideas here. How can we help you? The services that we provide in the Wycliffe Foundation and the Great Commission Foundation, they're designed for you, our donors, our ministry partners. This is a ministry to you. And so I think I can speak for Jay and myself. Some of the greatest joy we have is sitting down with people and talking through these problems and learning what they want to do and why, and then we can show them how to do it. So we're here to serve you. When we visit with people, any information that you share is kept confidential, and there's no cost or obligation to give. In fact, we're salaried. We don't make commissions or anything like that. And we work with your advisors as you desire. And most importantly, we also understand you have multiple charitable interests. I mean, you know, Wycliffe maybe in my shirt, we understand that people have many different causes they give to, starting with their church and other ministries. We believe our job is to show you how to do the giving, like hopefully you see in some of these case studies. And it's the Holy Spirit's job to direct you where to give. So we like to make that clear up front. Yes, we're representing two particular organizations, but we know people have multiple charitable interests. And so we put that forward. And why should you include us in our team? Well, Jay's going to talk about that.
You know, when we think about a team, we understand that most of you are probably already working with a CPA, an attorney, perhaps an insurance professional, or a financial planner. They're a great team. You need to have all of them at the table. But we think we bring some additional expertise to bring synergy to that already existing team. So why would you want to include us on that team of your existing professional advisors? Well, first of all, you will experience no pressure from us. And as Michael so well articulated, there's no cost, there's no hidden agenda that we have as we do our work to support our ministry partners. And we're your friends. So you'll receive from us the complete trust and comfort of working with people that care about your needs. And also, you'll be very clear to make sure that we outline all of your options so that you understand all the different ways that you can go in exploring charitable giving. And finally, and probably most important of all, you will reap the benefits of being a wise steward of what God has entrusted to you.
Wow, Michael and Jay, thank you so much for your insightful thoughts and presentation. You know, I've done this all 5 times, this webinar with you all, and I learn something every time. I learn a lot of something every single time we get together, so thank you. Thank you, thank you. I know our listening and watching audience out there is also very thankful. Well, now is our Q&A time, ladies and gentlemen, but first I'd like to share with our listening and watching audience that as a representative of the Jesus Film to our donors, I felt compelled to engage with the Great Commission Foundation regarding my gift in estate design. So Leslie, my bride, and I are in the middle of our own complimentary and confidential estate inventory with Jay. We're so looking forward to Jay's advice as Leslie and I seek to leverage our position as stewards, just like all of you are. Ours is not a large estate, but one thing I do know for sure, we're stewards over all of it, as you are. Additionally, having worked with donors for more than 18 years now, I've seen firsthand tens of millions of dollars mobilized for kingdom building simply by introducing donors to our colleagues over at the Great Commission Foundation. I'm so glad there are men and women who have God-given expertise in gift and state design like Michael and Jay. I hope you are too. I have been encouraged and built up during this time. Well, in light of this still groggy economy, our new higher tax rates, combined with this presentation, I'm certain our audience has questions, guys. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you can use that chat feature at the right side of your broadcast screen to type your questions for our experts. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. Are we going to pretend you were handing me a question? So this is our...
do a couple. I do want to get a few.
Okay. So here's our first question coming from Laird from Muskogee, Pennsylvania. He says, I already have received and accepted an offer for the sale of some land I've been holding for several years, but I've not closed on the transaction. Can I transfer that land into a charitable remainder trust and reap the benefits that you described in your example? Which of you guys wants to handle that one?
I'll take that one.
Okay, Jay.
Thank you, Mark. Great question. You know, a lot of folks ask this in the work that we do, and you have to be careful if you're looking at transferring an appreciated asset to particularly a charitable remainder trust or a charity. It's important that there not be a prearranged sale prior to that transaction happening. So if you've received an offer and accepted it, things in writing, there's commitments that are made, that really wouldn't be something that could happen next with a charitable remainder trust. You could not do that. However, if you had a buyer in the wings, someone that expressed an interest, you had no commitments, but they had expressed a significant interest in your asset, then it's quite possible that that could still work in that situation.
Okay, good to know. Okay, second question coming right up here. Number 2, coming from Jimmy. I have some rental property that I'm considering gifting to ministry. How do I determine the market value of this property so that I can obtain the appropriate amount of donation for income tax purposes?
I'll take that.
Michael, take it.
I got it.
Okay.
Mark. With appreciated property such as real estate, which is hard to value according to the tax code, you can't look up the Wall Street Journal. Any gifts of appreciated capital assets other than securities that are over $5,000 in value, you need to get an appraisal done. And it can't be your brother Joe or your cousin. It has to be a qualified, independent appraisal. And then the IRS has over a dozen specifications what that appraiser needs to be and what qualifies as such. But we can help you with that. So essentially, Jimmy, you need to get a qualified appraisal for the real estate. If it's a business interest, you get an appraisal for business interest. Whatever the asset may be, you need an appraiser who focuses on that type of asset.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Hey, number 3, here we are. Are there any minimum dollar amounts or ages that exist to set up a donor-advised fund?
Well, I'll be happy to take a stab at that. Michael, jump into your organization as well. But at the Great Commission Foundation, the only limitations that we have is we'd like to see a minimum investment of $5,000. And we don't really have an age limit. We do like to see younger couples engaged with their donor-advised fund, because if they're a younger couple and they have children, they can bring their children into the recommendations that they make is to have a take money out of that donor-advised fund and give it to different charities. And so it becomes a family affair where they can help teach giving to the next generation.
I agree 100% with what Jay said. I would just add the only restriction we have on our donor-advised fund, and I think Crew pretty much follows the same one, is that at Wycliffe we ask that for every $100 you grant out to other charities, you grant 10 to Wycliffe. Yeah, 10% every year, but whatever you send out. And the other thing is we will not approve or grant money to an organization that's antithetical to our Christian faith.
That kind of sets up the next question. Question number 4 is this. With the Donor Advised Fund, is the organization I set up the fund with obligated to honor the charities I identify to receive grants?
Well, I'll just continue. I mean, it is called a donor advised fund. I mean, you've made the gift to the charity that manages it, and under the tax law, to get the tax benefits, you have to give it away, and it can be no strings attached. Now, that being said, of course, the donor advised fund, the name also implies that unless it's, again, a ministry or a charity or something that's antithetical to our Christian faith, we're going to make those grants. I mean, but under the tax law, the charity has final say-so. I know in my experience, I don't think I've ever seen a charity decline a grant for legitimate charitable organizations. Jay, anything?
Yeah, I would say that we've only, perhaps a handful of times over the last 15 years, have had to decline requests from the ministry department because it doesn't fit our.
Great. Okay. Good question. That's a great question.
We do.
Michael and Jay, thank you again for your presentation and answers to these just very few questions. We keep adding questions, but we're going to have to call it a day because we want to honor everybody's time. It's my understanding that our guests may contact either or both of you at any time, including 3 a.m., for example, to ask questions directly by email or telephone. You should see their contact information on your screen now, ladies and gentlemen. Michael and Jay are ready to help you in any way, so you can consider your appreciated assets as a key to leveraging tax dollars for a greater kingdom impact, as the title of our webinar suggests. Remember, a video of this recording, a video recording of this presentation will be available for viewing again at this same web address beginning Monday, October the 6th. Please feel free to share this video with friends and family. And just in case you'd like to watch again live or invite family and friends to see live, we're broadcasting again this Saturday morning, 10:30. That's Pacific time. 10:30 Pacific time. That would be 1:30 on the East Coast. I know several people already have told me they're going to be watching on Saturday morning on the West Coast. If this web presentation has been beneficial to you or value in any way, please let us know. Your feedback is very important to us, and it kind of tees up what we want to do next. We're planning another webinar for next spring, just before April 15th, Tax Day, on a similar topic related to gift planning and estate design. So please stay tuned, and please do give us your feedback. Again, thanks for joining us today. God bless you.
Great job.
I'm so sorry about that beginning. I didn't see my slideshow up there, and I just lost it.
Yeah, no problem.